Michael DALY Last updated 17:30, May 26, 2018. Eradicating Mycoplasma bovis across New Zealand farms could cost the government over $1 billion. For many urban dwellers, the words Mycoplasma bovis are floating around somewhere on the edge of their awareness. It's obviously causing distress and concern in rural parts of the country, but the lack of any alarming health messages is a signal that it's not critical to pay attention. It's certainly true there are no food safety risks, but there are good reasons for people in the cities to make an effort to understand what is going on. One is simply to offer support to those farmers in rural communities hurting and facing years of hard work to get back to where they were before the disease struck their cows. Read more. Mycoplasma farmers living in the shadow of slaughter. Farmer says cows that escaped government-owned farm may have given his herd M. bovis. Cabinet expected to choose eradication over containment of M. bovis. Fonterra's forecast $7 farmer payout, one of the best this decade. M. bovis, leave it to the farmers to manage an author, and something that could be of more self-interest for the urban community, is the rise in the number of incursions by imported risks and their impact both on the economy, and on some New Zealand icons. All farms that have tested positive for Mycoplasma bovis have restricted place notices. So what is Mycoplasma bovis? This is how Biosecurity New Zealand, a unit of the Ministry of Primary Industries (MPI), explains it. Mycoplasma bovis is a bacterium that causes illness in cattle including udder infections, mastitis, abortion, pneumonia and arthritis. It does not infect humans and presents no food safety risk. Disease is found worldwide and is not considered a disease of relevance to trade by the World Animal Health Organization. There are no regulatory restrictions for meat and dairy products due to M. bovis. Extensive milk testing and farm tracing has led to confidence that M. bovis is not endemic, regularly found in New Zealand, and is limited to a network of farms connected by animal movements. M. bovis is spread from animal to animal through close contact and bodily fluids, such as mucus, and through milking equipment. Calves can be infected through drinking milk from infected cows. The disease is mostly spread through movement of cattle from farm to farm. Vehicles pose little biosecurity risk and it's absolutely safe for trucks to move from infected farms to other properties. Most animals don't show symptoms of Mycoplasma bovis, which makes it difficult to identify and track. What has happened so far? M. bovis was first identified in cattle in the Oamaru area last July, although it's not known how long it has been in the country or how it got in. As of last Thursday, there were 37 active infected properties, those quarantined under movement restrictions. A further 4 farms had been depopulated, cleaned and had restrictions lifted. In late March, the Ministry for Primary Industries decided to cull all cattle on the 28 farms then known to be infected. That involved some 22,300 animals either going to slaughter at processing plants or being culled on farm if they were not healthy enough for processing. The depopulation was expected to be largely finished by the end of May, although it could take into July on a small number of farms. On May 10, Agriculture Minister Damien O'Connor said along with the active infected farms, another 40 were under restricted place notice, meaning they were considered highly likely to become infected. Nearly 1,700 properties were of interest because of risk events, such as animal movements, the supply of milk for animal feed, or because they were next to infected properties. On May 14, Biosecurity NZ said a farm in the Cambridge area tested positive for M. bovis, the first time it had been found in Waikato, the country's largest dairy region. Southland farmer Ben Walling, "It wasn't an overly flash Christmas, to be honest. What impact is it having on farmers?" Southland farmer Ben Walling has talked of the anguish of the mass slaughter of his cows, including his children's pet calves. Westpac said that on the farms where M. bovis had been confirmed, the impact was clearly devastating for individual farmers, businesses and the wider community. While farmers will qualify for compensation under the Biosecurity Act, there are already complaints about how long the compensation process is already taking, as well as uncertainty about just what compensation farmers will be eligible for, the bank said. In addition to this uncertainty, the loss of many years' worth of improvements in breeding stock and the stress of sourcing new cattle and effectively rebuilding the business from scratch will have a massive impact on affected farmers. Add to this a lingering cloud of uncertainty over the future of cattle on farms currently under restricted places notice, and sentiment in the affected areas is set to remain downcast for some time yet. Darian's chief executive Tim Mackle says that this has been a tough road for farmers. It's simply devastating to find out you have this disease on your farm and know what it could mean for your animals. Just living next door to an infected property can be enough for a farmer's business to collapse. Farmers quizzed MPI officials for over 2 hours on the spread of Mycoplasma bovis to Waikato. What about the wider economic impact? So far it seems to be more about how it's affecting confidence in the dairy industry, rather than the incomes of the large majority of farmers. In the past week, Fonterra announced a strong opening forecast farmgate milk price of $7 per kilogram of milk solids for 2018-19. It also forecast its New Zealand 2018-19 milk collections to be 1.5% higher than it forecast previously. Federated Farmers Dairy Chairman Chris Lewis expected benefits for farmers from the strong price but said it would be little consolation for farmers caught up in the M. bovis outbreak. They haven't the animals to milk and this is just adding to their frustration of moving away from future profits. It's very sad and they're taking one for the team, Lewis said. Farmers received compensation for lost earnings until a farm was restocked, but that could take many months and there were still bills to pay. BNZ said buoyant dairy prices would support good cash flow to the dairy industry and help the country's terms of trade, and help overall growth. But it added, there is some concern around the chilling effect that the cow disease M. bovis might have on production, activity, and investment as it affects farm operations and lifts costs. Several hundred farmers attended a MPI-hosted public meeting for Waikato farmers regarding the M. bovis discovery at the mighty Waikato domain. Karapira Westpac said that as a result of the M. bovis outbreak, already fragile confidence in the dairy sector has taken yet another knock. The dairy industry was grappling with a series of issues, although Westpac noted the number of affected farms was still small relative to the size of the New Zealand dairy industry. It put the size of the dairy herd around 4.8 million cows in 12,000 herds. Dairy prices were at levels that should leave most dairy farmers comfortably in positive cash flow territory. If milk prices were around forecast levels for the 2018-19 season, it would mark a period of unusual stability, with 3 consecutive seasons where the price was above $6 per kilogram. ASB said that while Fonterra's 2018-19 milk price forecast was more bullish than it had expected, the bullishness was being tempered by M. bovis concerns. As a result, farmers are unlikely to act on the strong milk price outlook and their spending and investment plans are likely to subdued until M. bovis concerns recede. Despite that, SB expects a rebound in New Zealand production in 2018-19, partly due to more normal weather, after falls in 3 consecutive seasons. So this isn't going to make butter more expensive. The price of butter has been going up, but M. bovis is not the reason. In mid-May, ASB said a global butter shortage had become more acute on the back of soft New Zealand production this season. Butter prices had spiked by around 30% so far this year, and were only 4% below record levels set back in September 2017. What does this say about New Zealand's biosecurity? The risk of damage to the agricultural sector from some kind of foreign invader had become more acute, Westpac said. The lesson for both industry and the government is that they need to cooperate to deal with incursions quickly, effectively and efficiently when they inevitably happen. If incursions were not dealt with properly, the country faced the prospect of an erosion of one of its important advantages over other food-producing countries. M. bovis is not the only imported threat which has emerged in New Zealand in recent years. Amongst others, Bonamia austraea has stopped oyster farming in Stewart Island. Myrtle rust disease has emerged as a threat to iconic plants such as pohutukawa, manuka and whaihoa, and infestations of brown marmorated stinkbug, a threat to a wide range of New Zealand crops, have resulted in ships being turned away from New Zealand ports, Westpac said. What happens next? On Monday, Cabinet is due to make a final decision on whether to push on with trying to eradicate the disease, or to try to manage it. Either option is estimated to cost about $1 billion over 10 years. This week, Minister O'Connor said $100 million had been spent on the response to M. bovis, including funding compensation for affected farmers, a national bulk milk testing program to help determine the geographic spread, and upgrading the NAID animal tracking system. Stuff.